In the mid-1800s, the steam engine was the high-tech marvel of the world. It was fast, it was loud, and it changed everything. But while the physical railroad was building the American economy, a second, invisible railroad was systematically dismantling the institution of slavery. It didn't have iron tracks, it didn't have steam whistles, and it definitely wasn't underground in a literal sense. So why do we call it the Underground Railroad? By the 1830s, the railroad was the most popular topic in America. The abolitionists and freedom seekers realized they could use the language of the railroad as a perfect verbal encryption. Take these examples. The stations. These weren't depots. They were safe houses, private homes, barns, and church basements where travelers could hide, eat, and rest. The conductors. These were field agents. They guided people from one station to the next. They had to know the terrain, the patrols, and the codes. The stockholders. Every railroad needs funding. These were the secret donors who provided the money for clothes, food, and forged papers. And of course, the freight, or passengers. These were freedom seekers themselves. In letters and telegrams, they were often referred to as parcels or bundles to keep the authorities in the dark. Now, this wasn't just clever naming. It was a security protocol. If a letter was intercepted saying,
3 parcels arriving at the station via the midnight conductor,
it sounded like a standard business transaction. This linguistic mask allowed a massive, illegal movement to operate in broad daylight. Now, you can't understand the system without the woman they called Moses. Harriet Tubman, born Arminta Ross, or Minty for short, she escaped in 1849, but she didn't just run for herself. Harriet returned to the South 13 times. She was a master of the railroad language and strategy. She used bird calls to signal safety, moved only on Saturdays because runaway notices weren't printed until Monday, and famously, she never lost a passenger. She wasn't just a guide, she was the ultimate system administrator for the Maryland branch of the network. Now, once the passengers were on the move, they needed a way to navigate. Since maps were illegal and dangerous, they used hidden communication. Quilt codes. They were used as a visual interface. The wagon wheel pattern told travelers that a caravan was ready. The bear's paw instructed them to follow the actual animal trails through the woods to avoid the human patrols on the main roads. That's just 2 of them, but there were several other quilt patterns that they would use, including the tumbling blocks and log cabins. In addition to this visual reference, they also had an auditory signal. They called these the spirituals. You know, good old songs. For instance, Follow the Drinking Gourd was a literal navigation manual for the Big Dipper and the North Star. Wade in the water was a procedural instruction. Get into the river to throw off the scents of the tracking dogs. But what if those dogs caught up? They had a strategy for that too. Freedom seekers would use red onions, vinegar, and turpentine to overwhelm the dog's sensory receptors. Sort of like a scent jammer that broke the trail. Their ingenuity didn't stop there. It was also mechanical. Blacksmiths and carpenters built false bottom wagons. These stealth vehicles had secret compartments hidden under double floors, often covered in manure or fish to discourage anyone from looking too closely. Now, if they got where they were going, they couldn't do it without a new identity. So they mastered that. Freedom papers were the IDs of the 1850s for Black folks. Skilled calligraphers within the network would meticulously replicate official signatures and seals, providing new identities that allowed people to board trains and boats in broad daylight.
Looks like you're good, miss.
The Underground Railroad wasn't just a series of lucky escapes. It was a multi-layered, ingeniously coded system. They used the railroad's language to speak in secret, and they used the Earth's elements to find their way home. Up to 100,000 souls found freedom through the Underground Railroad. Harriet Tubman and the thousands of nameless station masters and conductors prove that ingenuity is the ultimate key to freedom. Now, I love sharing this history that we weren't taught in school. If you enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe. And comment below to let me know if there's something that you learned about the Underground Railroad. And as always, stay curious.